right. Hey, thanks for joining me for the Outlaw Pulpit. And I am back and glad to bring this podcast back over to the Sanctuary channel. Been away for quite a while, to be honest with you. And most recently, I was at Pastor Bob Beeman's house for a get together. It's been something that I've been thinking about. And when I was there, a couple people asked about it. And so I was thinking this is probably the time to get going again. And so I'm grateful to be able to do this. And my name is Pastor Bob. And in the sanctuary world, they call me Pastor Bob 2.0. A lot of you know me, but some of you don't. Maybe you've just joined the sanctuary channel. The Pastor Bob 2.0 thing, it's not a comparison. It's nothing like that. It was actually a funny name that was given to me at Cornerstone 2010. The couple of years prior to that, I had Pastor Bob up to speak at the church I pastor at here in Waupaca, Wisconsin, which is between Stevens Point and Appleton, Wisconsin, about 2 hours north of Milwaukee, an hour west of the beloved Green Bay Packers. So the team famous for one and done in the playoffs, it seems recently, but I digress. Anyways, so we were at Cornerstone, and Inner Siege was playing on the Sanctuary stage, and Pastor Bob Beeman, and we formed a relationship, and he was sick that year, and so he asked me if I would fill in and teach for him. I was already there because I was teaching a class for Cornerstone Festival through the Northern Seminary track on surviving church politics and spiritual abuse. It's quite the topic. And so Kevin from Inner Siege introduced me, and he said, Pastor Bob Beeman's not able to be here, but instead we have Pastor Bob 2.0. And so that name just kind of stuck, and it's an honor to have that name, but it really is not a comparison thing. I love Pastor Bob, and Sanctuary, of course, I'm one of those that started hearing about him in the old Heaven's Metal magazines, saw his face in Hot Metal 4 video, saw his face in the CD and cassette jackets, and on it goes. It's one of those things where my story is your story. But why the Outlaw Pulpit? Okay, so a little background and what we're going to do with this podcast. For 28 years, I've been a pastor and credentialed with the Assemblies of God. For 8 years, I was a youth pastor in Milwaukee, which is my hometown, technically Bayview, which is south side of Milwaukee. And then moved up to Waupaca. And after about a year of youth pastoring at this church, I became the lead pastor of the church. And so I'm still there. And I realize that not everybody is involved in a church where it meets inside of a building. And I totally get what Pastor Bob Beeman has to say, that church is the people, not the building. I get that. I wholeheartedly get that. And so however, I'm coming at this podcast from being on this side of the pulpit, being a pastor in a brick and mortar building of a church that has been around for quite a while. And it's an honor to be able to do this sort of thing. When I spoke at Cornerstone, I hit on the topic of church politics, spiritual abuse. And then for 3 years, I spoke at a large music festival up here in Wisconsin called Life Fest. And I'm not sure if they're going to have me back this year again, but I'm certainly open to that. It's always a hot topic issue when I share, because there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of disgruntledness within the church, and rightfully so. I'm a pastor on this side of the pulpit, and I still say there's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of issues going on. And that's what I'm going to do with this podcast, is address these things. So I'm going to address everything from my yearly BM. Wait a minute. Business meeting. What were you thinking, by the way? Yearly business meeting, which to some could be like that other thing, and talk about why is there business in the church? Why is there certain things? We're going to talk about teachings. We're going to talk about theology. We're going to talk about legalism. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. And I hope to enlighten people as you enlighten me. And so on this frame here, right in the bottom here, you'll see a email address. You can email me your questions, or you can post them right here on Facebook in the comments section, and I'll begin archiving those, and I'm going to hit on those, answer those questions along the way, so that I want you to know that you have input into this podcast. So yeah, a little different. I'm not going to go so much down rabbit trails of scriptural in-depth deep dives, but rather talk about the church, why it does things, how do you get over things, how to move on. And if you're not in a brick and mortar building, I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise, because really you could be at a gathering in someone's living room, at a restaurant, wherever, and you're having church. When I go to Pastor Bob Beeman's house for those get-togethers, we're having church. And so I get it. I want to be respectful of all of those different stances. And quite honestly, I'll share my story with you as well, as to why I'm still in the church, but why I almost quit the church. I realize there's a lot of church hurt stories out there. There are a lot of them. But I want to share mine with you. It almost derailed me twice within about a year and a half window. So we're going to go down a lot of different paths on this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but I want to address what you have to say. So drop those comments and or email me, and I will address them in future podcasts. So strap in. It's going to be a great time together. I'll be posting every Monday here on the Sanctuary Facebook page. I'll try to get into the YouTube channel as well, and really want to hear your stories, because in all things church related, your story is my story, and you know what, my story is your story. I get it, and we want to walk through that together. So thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on next Monday to dive in on our first topic, which is going to be a humdinger. So I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.